Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. I wanted to give a tease for some of the user data tracking stuff that I've been hinting about that we're doing, but also make this a bit more on the technical side. So we've made an element, or I've started working on an element called, let's call it the code here, it's called user action. And what a user action tag does is it basically just converts whatever the action in question is into a statement that's bubbled up, and then some other work being worked on by Dr. David Fusco from IST at Penn State is to take those messages, those user engagements, convert them into xAPI statements, and then actually visualize them for people. So what user action does from a developer's perspective is like this. So I can write user-action, and in this case, track click. And so what this is doing is basically allowing me to kind of hijack this operation and make meaning out of something that was previously just visual. So to see this actually do something, I've started to hijack another tag we have called self-check. So self-check has been in our course content, but let's say we want to actually start capturing that someone has engaged with it. What we can do then is, you see over here I have my debug tab. When I click this, you'll see that it's retargeted and bubbled up this event to something else that's listening. So if the thing that's listening, which is being worked on by someone else, is listening for this engagement aspect, and then it converts that into something that's visual, then we'll be able to know all of the self-checks that students have engaged in, no matter where they exist in content. So for example, I can go down, hit this one, right? So then we would know that the user actually engaged with both of these. Another interesting aspect of this is setting beacons. And so when I click this one, you'll see two events fire. So the first event is the fact that I clicked on this. The second event is this being visible, meaning that the answer was visible. So I'm doing it at the moment just for demonstrative purposes here, but let's say that we wanted to know, let's say this is an accordion and it had a bunch of things. Maybe there's critical, information instructionally in like tab 5. It'd be really great to know what students got there, or to indicate in a UI to the student, hey, there's something hidden in this lesson that you didn't go to, or whatever that is. We can kind of start to gamify what the material is, that we can track that. So to see what that user action looks like, it's basically the same thing. You can see I'm just wrapping this area in tracking visibility. So anything I want to track the visibility of, I can just wrap in this tag. I already started putting this into Hacks CMS and a Hacks editor. So if I was to go to demonstrative course space, and then I could take this and be like, you know what, I really want to know that they got to this paragraph. This paragraph's really important. That I could highlight the paragraph, say advanced, and say I want to do a user action. And then what I'm tracking is whether or not someone has seen this. Okay, we're tracking it now. That's the kind of UX we want to bring to data and research, in this way. And again, this data, goes internal to this page. It lives with the user. This is a progressive web app, or PWA, which means it runs offline, which means they could go to your course materials, particularly good for OER, and then we're just going to visualize their data for them, so they can start to make meaning of their own engagements with the material without getting huge third parties involved with data mining and all kinds of awful things that happen from there. So to be slightly more technical here for a minute, this is kind of a fusion one. I've been doing this to really jack up the performance of my elements. So what this is saying is, when the definition for self-check is created, start to unfurl all these other references. I could have these at the top of the document, but then they would be render blocking. What that means is, when I refresh, you might see it go, right? It kind of goes, and everything kind of pops in. However, I get into a bit of a conflict here, because you see the two events for visibility actually fire. And they fire early as a result of this setup. And it's because the definition for user action is going to come in at a time that I'm not really sure when it gets there. It's kind of a race condition. And so the click track event is perfectly fine, but the visibility track event technically that tag is visible to my screen, and so it fires the event. So here's a real basic way of timing that I can change it. So I'm going to remove this from the constructor, and instead I'm going to move it to connected. Now this means after the tag is set up and it's on the page, well, I know at this point that these things will have imported and gotten there. And so as a result, I won't be able to actually see the tag in the page. And so if I do that now, move it down to connected, and then I hit refresh here, you'll see our events go away. But now when I click, I get my mouse event, and then I get the fact that the content has been made visible to me. So another way we could potentially do this is, maybe I don't care that they click on it at all in this case. Maybe I just care that the intersection observer for visibility is there. And so then I can take user action, and we're going to just remove clicking. Okay, save. All right, refresh. And I apparently have to move those down even further. So user action, let's take these, and let's move this to after render. After render, or after next render, sorry, is an even later, it's not a real lifecycle hook, it's something Polymer exposes. There we go, so it updated. Okay, so now I'm guaranteed that I won't fire this event until this is visible. Something else I could do potentially, right? So I did remove the click tracking thing. Maybe what I want to know instead of, did they expose this? Because now I'm going to get, I tab through even, hit that, and it'll fire the event. Why? Because the event is actually on, did the student see this, right? Did they bother to get the results information? But maybe what I also would be really useful for us to know is, did they click on this more info, right? Because we're putting in more info for how they can, open this up and get access to additional information about whatever that is. In this case, great white sharks. So if I want information, if I want additional details there, what we could do is we could take that design element, which is there it is, more info, and then I can take my user action, track equals, click, all right. And then another flag that I can put on is every. So if I put every on here, it's saying track every click. The default behavior for user action is just the first time it happens. So another way I could do this to test this, I could put the every flag on visibility. And so what that says is now when I hit this, see it's fired more than one event, and then it goes away because the visibility changed. Now that might be overkill in the case of visibility, as I did that on purpose. So let's refresh that. All right. So we just want to know, did they see it? But we might be like, maybe that link is actually useful when they jump off to it. And so you can see in this case, I'm tracking the fact that they hit that link. So again, this is mostly just demonstration of the capabilities of this. Wiring this up for data that can be then visualized for learners in that offline context I talked about. Now that I have this tag, I can just kind of start wrapping it on all kinds of stuff. This is an abstraction of xAPI even, as far as the event type that we're looking at. And the reason we're doing that is that so we could potentially play nicely with things like Caliper down the road. However, it's more of the system context that's going to provide that, but the content can be portable, right? This engagement can work no matter what platform it's in. It can fire that event, and that platform can go, oh, you know what, we actually use Caliper here, or oh, we use xAPI here, or oh, we just kind of want to build this little chart over here on the fly and not really use any real format, but yet do it in a structured way that can make meaning for other developers implementing these.